from DevSync. And as you all know, that every week we host these sessions for our audience to kind of learn about topics in general, which includes your entrepreneurial journey, the involvements in AI, and then marketing in general. Today we have a very special guest with us, and I'm actually really excited because we have Mr. Shahid Khan with us. He is startup expert, but इन्होंने मुझे specifically कहा है कि startup से हम लोग conversation थोड़ी सी दूर रखेंगे, हम लोग careers के ऊपर focus करेंगे. So with that, I just like to hand over the stage to Mr. Shahid Khan कि आप audience को बता सकें कि about yourself and what you have been up to all these years.
Sure. Assalamu alaikum to all those who are tuning in. So I think maybe more than a week ago, I surprisingly showed up at the DevSync Devathon. It was a very instinctive ask by Usman because we were meeting for lunch for a different reason. And I said, "Who's the audience at the Devathon?" He said, "Young people." I said, "Okay, I'm going to cancel everything. I'm coming with you." So I came and I saw all of your energy and I sat through the prize ceremony and everything. And since I was totally unprepared as to what I should be saying, so I quickly asked Usman, what should we talk about? And it turns out कि आजकल की market जो है developers के लिए it's very hard and it is global. It is simply not Pakistan, it's global. So I said, if I start talking about your passion and your dreams, you're going to say this person is talking bullshit because none of those matters. I'm going through school, I'm working pretty hard, and I expect to find some work after that. So the concept of the work for you guys who are still in university in particular, and I will come to the ones who are in career, is to basically find a job.
Yeah.
So my message there and here today is don't look for a job. Look for hard problems that are happening today at the customers. Since you're in Pakistan, start with Pakistan because it's going to be pretty hard to do it in other countries because of language issues and so on and so forth. So with that, I'm going to relate a story about hard problems. Um, this morning, I'm in Peshawar, and
Okay.
I had gone to Mardan to help a teaching hospital
Okay.
about a different topic. And I came at 3, and the topic was very intense: how to have difficult conversation with the entire leadership of the hospital. So they were asking me, this was my second day, they kept asking कि सर आप हमारा हॉस्पिटल देखेंगे? मैंने कहा नहीं, मैंने तुम्हारा हॉस्पिटल नहीं देखना, मुझे लेके जाओ कि imagine I'm a patient coming in, so walk me through that experience. तो पहले वो आउट पेशेंट में ले गए. So the first thing I noticed is it's packed.
Yeah.
ठीक है. The second thing I noticed that there was no line at the first counter to get a token. So I said, okay, can you guys explain to me how come there's a no line? So what they had done was actually to prevent the lines because the hospital was designed not for the customers.
Yeah.
The hospital was designed by some stupid architect who had never been in a hospital.
Yeah.
So these guys are stuck with that. So they made the lines into the counter and
Yeah.
the main traffic. So you have emergency, you have really sick patients bumping into the people who are sitting there.
Yeah.
So that's a really hard problem. And so then I started asking some other question because I observed जो signs थे कि भी इधर जाएं, they were so tiny that you can't see. And majority of these patients who come tend to be, somewhat poor,
Yeah.
not very much educated. However, each one has a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So they can't read the sign. So as a result, when their turn comes after getting a token, they have to find and ask other people, and the area is packed, and they have to navigate. So, guys, what do you think? Is that a problem? So if that is a problem, how will you solve it? So you can't solve it by coding it.
Yeah.
You have to go through this experience
Yeah.
to see what's there. So I asked the IT guy that um, when they get the token and when they are diagnosed,
Yeah.
what happens then? So they are told to go. Meaning, okay, so they have a mobile phone. Why can't the diagnosis people put some QR code or something
Yeah.
which tells the next doctor, here is a patient and here is all the data. There is no need to carry a chit.
Yeah.
So there's a problem, a big problem. And you can imagine these people have traveled long distances. It's hot, there's no AC, the corridors are packed. So I said, okay, I've seen what I needed to see because I love finding the problem, and when the audience for that problem are there, I try not to give a solution because it's a much deeper process, and I'll walk you through it a little later. Then I said, okay, take me through the emergency. So we went through the emergency, and interestingly, the emergency is the smallest unit compared to the outpatient, and the biggest unit is the teaching place. So something was out of balance because the architects didn't help think through who is our customer. So when I was spending this time with the top leadership, I made an observation that I went through your website. I didn't see a word called patient centricity.
Yeah.
नहीं नहीं शाहिद साहब, we are patient care. Manika, these two are not the same thing. Patient care is inward looking out.
Yeah.
I'm talking about outward looking in, which is a patient perspective. So the emergency, I think they had a good control in. I mean, there was a pretty good flow. As soon as the patient comes in, they immediately, especially if there's visible trauma, immediately physician sees it and they have to. So that part was okay. Then I said, I want to see the pharmacy. So I went to the pharmacy and I said, can you describe that I am an outpatient? So what
Yeah.
happens? So people line up at the window to give them the prescription, and then they go through their computer checks, and then they give them the
Yeah.
medicine. Then, interestingly, for the emergency or other who are admitted, the doctor actually sends the prescription electronically to this desk. So that part is wonderful, flawless. So I said, okay, so you fix that part. So they said, we are trying to fix the outpatient so they don't have to form a line outside.
Yeah.
And then I asked, so, what is the process for ordering medication? So they had a pretty good system. They had alarms when the uh, stock would go down. So I said, when the stock go down, can you walk me through the process? They said, well, we list it out, we print it, give it to somebody in a file, and that person goes to the leader and it gets signed.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So remember, everyone has a mobile phone.
Yeah.
So why can't you send this thing electronically?
Yeah.
सर हमें उनके physical signature चाहिए. तो मैंने कहा, what is the issue? It's a trust issue. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
So you send it electronically and they put in their biometric to say it's me, it's
Yeah.
tied to this computer, and that is your electronic signature. तो
Agree.
वो हंसने लगे ना, तो कहने लगे सर आप बात तो ठीक कर रहे हैं लेकिन ये सिस्टम इतने पुराने हैं और गवर्नमेंट के भी ये पुराने हैं. मैंने कहा दैट इज ओके,
Yeah.
लेकिन द गोल शुड बी zero paper.
Yeah.
So I'm walking you through an actual situation almost like 3 hours ago that I saw.
Yeah.
And interesting thing is the hospital management system, I asked who developed it.
Yeah.
And they cannot afford, the enterprise class systems from Oracle or others. The licensing fee is too much. And the institutions here who are using it, who would have given it to them, on top of that, they put their own licensing fee. So since this is a government hospital, it's a lot. So they went on their own path, and I think there's a company in Peshawar who has developed an open source on
Yeah.
my SQL.
Okay.
So that was good. And then I said, so for all these improvements in zero paper target, how are you going to go about solving this problem? सर वो बस हम बोएंगे उनको स्पेक बता देंगे और हम कोडिंग कर लेंगे. तो मैंने कहा कि do you know Silicon Valley is filled with so many graveyards because whoever started the spec, which is a paper spec, iterated and handed it to developers, developed work hard
Yeah.
and delivered it maybe 8 or 9 months, and then they launch and the adoption is close to zero. So what do you think happened? Nobody talked to the end customer, which is the patient. So guys, this is my lesson to you. Finding a problem, start with the end user.
Yeah.
So if you're saying, sir, हम तो स्कूल में पढ़ रहे हैं और कोडिंग कर रहे हैं, step out of your class. Ask people, different businesses, can we just sit through when your customers come in or your patients come in? And I guarantee you'll find a problem. So become problem finders.
Yeah.
So long answer to your question.
No, I absolutely loved your answer, and there are a couple of things that you talked about, right? And that is identifying the right problems. So, in your case, what I've picked on is that you were able to ask the right questions, right? So, apart from asking the right questions, what is like in terms of problem identification? You identified asking the right questions and stepping out from your comfort zone and going out into the market and seeing where the problem lies. Can you lay out an entire structure for a person to follow whenever they're uncovering a problem?
Mhm. So the first habit you have to inculcate, which majority of us don't have it, is become a listener.
Yeah.
Because God gave us 2 ears and one mouth, and there is wisdom in that. That's number one. Become an amazing listener. How do you become an amazing listener? Ask three of your best friends to rate your listening versus
Yeah.
talking skill on a scale of 1 to 10. Then ask three of your close relatives, and then ask three of your student colleagues or whatever. You'll get your answer in less than 1 hour, whether you are a talker or you're a listener. So if you have to be a talker, how do you become a listener? When, let's say that it's me and Omar are talking
Yeah.
and I'm trying to become a listener. So Omar would say something and I will keep quiet and I'm listening. I will repeat back what I heard from Umar and then ask Umar, is this what you said? And is this what I heard?
Yeah.
One simple technique. Ask the person who summarized or repeat exactly, and repeat this habit with everyone. Because unfortunately, in the culture we are in, we are not listeners.
Yeah.
हमें दूसरे के ऊपर तुर्रा रखना है. उसने अभी बात शुरू की, उसको काट देना है अपनी को. So unless you become a greatest listener, you cannot find hard problems. So that's number one, become a good listener. Second one is have an open mind. Don't judge anything. When you walk into a situation like a hospital, don't make up your mind. Oh, their computer system is slow. That's not the problem. So observe visually, and also be empathic.
Yeah.
So here is how you become empathic. You find somebody who is not begging, but he has few things. You see on traffic lights, somebody comes and sells you,
Yeah.
and you say to them that I'm going to stop on the side of the road and I'm going to give you 500 rupees. I just want to talk to you.
Yeah.
So sit down with them and ask them, please tell me about yourself. आप अकेले हैं या अकेली हैं, आपके कितने बच्चे हैं, आप क्या करती हैं, तो और इस स्टेज पे क्या वो है आपके
Yeah.
साथ. और उसके बाद पूछें कि आपके dreams kya hain. You'll be amazed. They have dreams.
yeah,
May not do it. So listen to the story.
yeah,
And in that story, keep your mouth shut.
yeah,
Simply ask them about them. And you will come away with a real appreciation
yeah,
of what that person is. This is the same skill you will use when you're talking to an end user, whether it's a patient or somebody in a business. So, listening and empathy are two critical things that you need to exercise, practice over and over.
yeah,
And once you have those two, then how do you develop the questions for your target audience?
yeah,
Um, so I'm going to tell you a process,
yeah,
and you can study on your own. And my recommendation is, if you have found a problem at the
yeah.
first level, uh, get somebody who is a designer.
Okay,
I don't mean a fashion designer. I don't mean a house designer.
okay,
I mean a designer who has gone through the rigorous process of human centered process.
yeah,
Human centered process, or also known as design thinking.
yeah,
So, if anybody's interested in either helping you with finding the problem or refining the process, contact me afterwards. I'll give you the name of a person who I deeply respect. Um, and I met him during when I used to do coaching at NIC Lahore. That's where I met him, and
yeah,
I've come to appreciate his skills. So if you want to do this right, don't do it by yourself. Get some help.
yeah. And I really like this design thinking because I'm an active practitioner of this methodology. So when I joined DevSync like 7 months back, the first exercise that I did with my team was the design thinking exercise because I really wanted to uncover because a manifestation होती है of the problem, but the problem can be very deeply rooted into the overall process. So I
Mhm.
really, I'm an active practitioner of this design thinking methodology in my day-to-day life. So usually मुझे जो सबसे ज़्यादा जिसमें चीज़ अच्छी लगती है that is the use of sticky notes because that really gets the audience excited and it always works for me.
Uh,
But from that human-centered design comment that you said, I just want to raise a challenge that we usually feel in our corporate lives, and because our session is about the careers and the jobs, and जो लोग ये सोचते हैं, usually एक बहुत misconception सी है कि if we start listening to things and if we start being empathetic and having an open mind, तो यूजली क्या होता है कि पीपल स्टार्ट टेकिंग यू लेस सीरियसली, राइट? सो आपका इस चीज के ऊपर क्या एडवाइस है टू द न्यू पीपल हु वांट टू हैव दैट जॉब मेंटालिटी या फिर जॉब में आना चाहते हैं, तो वो इस चीज को किस तरह, लाइक व्हाट आर योर थॉट्स अबाउट दैट? आई जस्ट वांट यू टू expand on that, this misconception that there is.
So there are designers who do design thinking, and there are people like me who are on the cross section of technology and business and liberal arts. And I do things differently to arrive at the same
Yeah,
point. So I'll start with an example. I think that's the best thing. So, about 5 years ago, I was working with an organization in South America. The country is Colombia, at a very infamous city called Medellin, which used to be the hub and the center of cocaine trade. And the organization's role was, one of the roles was, government would give them grant to hand it out to people within certain income range, which were mostly poor,
yeah,
to purchase an apartment, because these people worked and part of their savings went into this fund. And the problem that they gave us was that in the last 3 years, government gave us money and we had a quota to achieve. In the last 3 years, we have only achieved 23% of the quota, giving out only 23% of the grants. Some months ago, the government people came and when they saw the number, they told us you have 6 months. If you don't do this, we're going to take the grants back and give it to somebody else. So the first thing we did was interview the group within the company that was responsible. Deep interview, kind of a user research. What we learned was, yes, they were did not meet the target, but it was an interesting thing. Whenever people came to apply at the exit survey, they give us 5 stars. So here's dichotomy: unable to meet quota, and customers give 5 stars. So we, you know, I took that thing away. I parked this in my brain. Then we interviewed 12 families who had applied before but have not heard back.
Yeah.
And what we learned from there, when they went to the service counter, they were given a 12-page legal document, and these people only have second grade education.
Yeah.
So imagine you give somebody a legal document. So they would basically get up, and
Yeah.
before getting up, they give them the evaluation form and they would give them 5 star. So one of my teammates asked, "But you gave a 5 star." This
Yeah.
is the reason we gave 5 star. We think that if we give them less, next time they won't even entertain us.
Yeah.
So here's the dichotomy.
Yeah.
The hidden problem was the process did not take them into account, and they misunderstood the purpose of the process. And the department is thinking, oh, we are doing great, 5 star, but we suck in getting the agreement. So moving forward, we actually involved the family and we shared our discovery that this is the problem for you. And they did some modification. Then we invited them back to Umar, what you were saying, in an ideation session with the sticky notes.
Yeah.
So they constructed the solution, not us, not the company.
Yeah.
We had pencil and paper wireframes, and
Yeah.
once we showed them what it's like, they did it on, and they themselves decided which one is priority. So the end solution was a mobile app page, a web page. First thing that said, you need to save this much money to qualify fully.
Yeah.
Second, that when you save this money, this will be the target date automatically given for you to show up. So 4 months later, they launched the solution. And I just checked with the CEO after 4.5 years, and I said, "How did it go?" He said, "We have exceeded the target by 700%."
That's wonderful.
So that's the power of empathy. That's the power of listening. That's the power of deep discovering the problem,
Yeah.
and then giving the opportunity for designing the solution. So one of the issues in the corporate world, you know, I'm not going to say devsing, is you are given this website,
Yeah.
make it nice, make it pretty, or it's not getting much traffic, so find a way to do it. And people like you and your team, you are really at a handicap because you have no idea
Yeah.
who the target customer is.
Yeah.
You will never be allowed to talk to them because this solution needs to be ready yesterday. So
Yeah.
you are in a catch 22. So any solution you put out, because you don't know the end audience, so you end up iterating over and over and over again.
Yeah.
However, to do it in a right way,
Yeah.
if it's a customer, you ask them, who's the target audience? They say, well, this. How do you know that's the target audience?
Yeah.
Well, we just guessed. Okay, so how can we get more accurate? So they say, why do we need to get accurate? Because you've come to us to solve your problem.
Yeah.
So if you give us access together, we will do some user interviews
Yeah.
and do it as much as possible in person, if not over Zoom. And then we together develop the questions that we will ask.
Yeah.
And you coach the customer to keep their mouth shut.
Yeah.
Because the product managers, they're trying to sell their thing.
Yeah.
All this work they should have done before writing a single line of code.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you end up with the problem thrown over the wall, and
Yeah.
it's a very hard problem.
Yeah. So, like, as you were telling me about that interesting story, that as you were coming down from the lift and this guy ran into you, right? So, I want
Yeah,
to know more about that. That
sure.
what? First of all, highlight your experience about Devathon, and then you can continue with that story because that was something really interesting. So I want the audience to hear it as well.
Sure. So I was meeting Usman the first time on that day at lunch, and somehow he asked, Shahzab, if you have time, can you
Yeah,
come see? I'm having a devathon. And I said, who's there? He said, young people. I said, what kind of young people? He said, mostly students, few who have graduated. I said, if that's the audience, I'll come. I'll cancel everything else. So I came. And then when the prize ceremony started, uh, I was struggling. I didn't know I was going to speak. So we had planned that, there'll be a different sequence. I will go somewhere in the middle of the end. So I have some time to prepare. And so what I observed, there was a lot of energy in the room.
yeah,
And, people were, at the beginning, there was a lot of energy. And I saw people who felt that they are happy because they are among their peers,
yeah,
not among themselves. Everybody from Devathon team was very helpful to them. So they felt like at home. This is the place we want to be in. Um, and this is a constructive criticism. As the time went on and on and on, the energy started to deplete away.
yeah,
So whoever is going to do it again,
yeah,
if you speak more than 50 seconds, get off the stage because it's not about you, it's the audience.
yeah. Agreed.
So when I got up, I think half the people were kind of busy on their phones because, we failed to engage.
Yeah,
So I think there's a lesson for people who are thinking of following a career in that role. And then I think just before going, I asked Usman, can I take this theme that when you finish, don't look for a job because there are no jobs right now.
yeah,
There are no jobs in the planet. I live in Silicon Valley. There are no jobs. In fact, there are far more people ever who don't have a job. And I'm talking about people who used to work at Google, who used to work at Facebook, because I'm only half a mile, I live half a mile away from Google. And actually, one of my son works at a Google subsidiary, but he's in a healthcare sector. Um, so again, I'm going to repeat it again. Don't expect to get a job when you graduate.
yeah,
You have time. Go out. There are many industries around your cities that you live in.
yeah,
Find connections who will let you lead into spending a day and just say, I just want to understand, okay, what is your function? What happens when a customer orders something? Can you walk me through? And can I observe how you do it? So since most of the processes in Pakistan and companies are still on paper,
yeah,
guys and girls, this is your biggest opportunity. You can help digitize. So again, I'm just repeating, don't look for a job, find problems, and then propose a solution. So when I was leaving at the lift, a
yeah,
young man came up and he said, "Shaikh Sahab, I'm a data scientist, and I think many companies don't have the teams to
yeah,
analyze their problems." And I said, "You think that's the problem?" He said, "Yeah, I think that's the problem." I said, "No, my dear friend, that's not the problem. You have no idea what the problem is. They have the data. They don't have people who can analyze the data. They don't have people who can draw a conclusion from the data or an insight to say this is how much you're losing business because you have not taken advantage of it." And then I gave him some other tips. Then he said, "But should I do it for free?" I said, "You don't want to say and start out by saying it free. Instead, give them a challenge. If you give me access to the data, in 4 weeks or 3 weeks, take time to saying, I deliver an insight. If this insight connects to your business problem, then you're going to give me a 4 month contract
Yeah.
and I will deliver you another two insights. And then you have to make a commitment. Then you're going to implement the first insight that I gave you. And when you implement first insight, if it increases your revenue by 10%, you're going to give me 0.5% of that revenue. So he said, well, if they say it's a too big a number, I said, negotiate in the middle, saying, okay, give me 0.2% for 4 months. So in 4 months, you will be deep into uncovering their problem with the data. So I said, is that better? Because with that revenue share, how much do you think you're going to earn? Is there a limit on it? He said, no. So I said, suddenly you become a master of your own destiny.
Yeah. Agree.
And don't give up, because if the first one says no, it's okay. It means you're on the right path. So that was something that was really unexpected for me too.
Okay, but like also, but once students when they hear these things, this is all good for them to uncover these things. But what they usually ask is that what is the first step they should take? While you outlined the process that you can even go to the while you were on the stage on Devathon, you can even go to a Kiryana store and identify these problems. But sometimes these things are not taken as seriously in the business world as well as all the other businesses. So how can a student prepare him or herself to approach to different businesses with this kind of problem solving attitude?
Okay. So guys and gals, networking doesn't work. What I mean is cold networking, when you call somebody out of the blue, doesn't work. It has never worked, and it's never going to work. So whoever is giving you that network advice, I think is giving you the wrong advice. There is another kind of advice called networking, so warm networking. That means you know somebody, and then you ask them, do some research.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is your great tool to uncovering, and but tell your warm network that this is what I'm trying to do. This is the kind of company that I'm looking for. Here are the names of 5 companies I like to go in and
Yeah.
study the problem. Don't leave them empty saying, can you just find me 5 companies?
Yeah.
Do your proper research and find out who you want to target. And then give them the opening line to your warm contact. This is what they should say to their contact.
Yeah.
I have a young lady who is completing her CS, and she is passionate about uncovering problems in the textile industry, with the goal being how to make their operations very digitized so they can reduce their cost, and that means they can produce faster, and then they can sell it or ship it faster. Or I like to look at their supply chain to see where are the gaps and how I can help improve that. So give that pitch to your warm network. So they are not talking cold. Trust me, and don't send in a WhatsApp. Okay? Print it out on paper, hand it to them. Because when you're talking to one of your friends, they're going to pull out your WhatsApp there. Make it easy for them to able to talk. So this is your path to uncovering. And the reason we are on LinkedIn, because this is so far the best tool to develop 6 degrees of connections.
I can understand.
So does that answer?
That's how we usually find guests for our live session is because we do these outreach and that's how we do it. But जब आप students की बात कर रहे होते हैं तो they want that first step. They always need that first push towards doing that. So can you recommend some books, YouTube channels, or any other avenues through which they can learn this and then go ahead into finding their own destiny?
I have a whole list of books.
Okay, but
Uh,
what if I
but
would say that you can name top three books?
For warm networking, read a book called Never Eat Alone.
Okay.
Never Eat Alone. It's written by Keith Farazi. Then the second book I would recommend, it's called Mindsets,
Okay.
by Carol Dweck. And the reason I am recommending this book, you need to find out if you have a fixed mindset or if you have a learning mindset. And it's okay if you are a fixed mindset, you can take steps to actually develop the learning mindset. And on my profile on LinkedIn, I actually have a blog, and I've written a couple of articles there. And those are the two books that I highly recommend. You know, every week I have a different book, so now my mind is completely clouded as to what the third book is going to be. But for the third book, I recommend, and I know Usman has repeatedly said that to everyone whenever he's that read, read, and read. And read doesn't mean you read Python books.
Yeah.
Read means you read very wide. Read a book by Sadat Manto. You will learn something.
Yes.
Read a book by a famous painter. See a movie that is very unexpected. The movie called Memento. It'll screw up your mind because at the end you will not know what is going on. So what
Yeah.
that tells you is the human mind doesn't always work linearly.
Yeah.
Our mind is called what we call plasticity. We can adjust to many things. So become that kind of a thinker by reading as much as you can, even if you start 2 lines per day. And if you don't like the first book, throw it away, pick the second one until you find something. And then finish it. And the way to read is
Yeah.
you highlight
Yeah.
and you have a notebook and you take notes. That is deep reading versus just reading it.
Yeah.
Uh, Personally, that has helped me a lot throughout my life because I'm always looking for ideas. And gals and guys, the ideas are not in blogs, they're not on TikTok, they're not on YouTube, they are in books and they are free,
Yeah.
by the way. So, does that give some?
Yeah, that does. And I would like to add my own perspective to this. So I read a lot of books on creativity and all these things. So previously, I was the kind of a guy who did not like reading that much. But how I kind of got into that practice is because I made a goal that I need to update my LinkedIn. And in order to update my LinkedIn, I need to get fresh ideas. And for those fresh ideas, I have to read a book. And for reading that book, I just take notes on my phone. And what I do is that from the thoughts that I gather from that, I just develop a LinkedIn post that resonates well with the audience. So, that's how I kind of made a system around it to
Right,
motivate my own self to read more books.
right. So, Umar, I'm going to put you on spot since,
Okay.
we are having a candid discussion.
Yeah.
So, imagine I get hired at DevSync.
Yeah.
I show up 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
What happens to me on the first day?
If you come on 9 o'clock, nobody's going to be there.
Okay, that's a good lesson.
because because our workday starts after 12 p.m.
Okay.
And if you are hired as a developer, then your day starts at around 4. And if you're in this like the supporting department, then your day starts at 12 p.m. and it ends at 8 p.m.
Mhm.
So इस चीज का मैं भी अभी तक used to नहीं हुआ, even though I've been a part of DevSync for over 7 months. But this is what will happen on your first day. But all the fun things that will happen is that you will be given a tour of the building. You will be introduced to the facilities that are there. The coolest thing that you will find is that we have a salon in the basement of our building, and then there's a mess hall up there, and there are dedicated gaming rooms. So you'd be pretty impressed by that. Uh, then you'll be introduced to your team. The culture over there is usually very welcoming, and you'll get to meet a lot of nice people. And then somehow somebody from the marketing department will know that you're a new person there, and they will contact you to be featured in one of the videos that we usually are filming. So that's how your entire day would look like.
So let me tell you my experience. First day at a company, at a pretty large company,
Yeah.
and so they bring us in and they do the paperwork which is necessary, like do you have work permission and so on and so forth, and then they ask us to fill the benefits because we need to get covered, and then they go into a corporate bullshit slide. And I came in for driving internal innovation
Yeah.
at an 18,000 people company, a little company called PayPal.
Wow.
And for the next 4 hours, I didn't hear a single thing about innovation. I didn't see this as a priority for CEO message. And I'm just sitting there saying, you guys are hacking your own foot. So, after it was over, I talked to the HR person and I said, you know why I'm hired. You're not helping me by saying nothing about it. So she was pretty perceptive. She said, why don't you propose something?
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I just need 15 minutes at the end of the day when everything is done
Yeah.
with the same crowd. And so in 15 minutes, what I would say, here are 7 ways you can develop your creativity habits. Number one, every month, one Friday, take a different route home you've never taken. Yes, it'll take you half an hour more. Second, go through a poor neighborhood that you've not gone through and observe what is there. You will see billboards that are different.
Yeah.
And since I live in the area, and I said in poor neighborhoods, there will be a lot of billboards for gambling
Yeah.
and slot machines.
Yeah.
Because when you are at the bottom and you don't have any hope, what is the only thing you think of is to play a
Yeah.
slot machine.
Like the get rich quick schemes.
Yeah. And that gives you an insight, you know, are we doing justice to these people society wise? You may see in I'll just mention Lahore. There are many poor neighborhoods who've been living in juggies for a long time.
Yeah.
And we will be held accountable at the end of our lives for that. If you can do something from any perspective, design perspective, or get an architect to come and propose something. So that was one thing. Every Friday take a different route home, and then I would ask them to raise their hand where they are wearing a watch or a ring, and I would ask them to take it off, put it on the wrong hand for the next 8 hours. And I said, those of you who don't have a watch or ring, swap your shoes for the next 8 hours. Again, we become creatures of habit.
Yeah.
Find a way every day to break the habit. For example, when I get ready, if I'm going out, I put my wallet in the wrong pocket the second day. The third day, I will put it back. So go back and forth because I'm always saying, oh, where's the wallet this time? Right?
Yeah.
So it brings you the awareness where you are. And there were four other things that I don't remember. And then at the end of it, I would say that, by the way, you can make even more money. And the way you can make more money, here is a platform for idea collection.
Yeah.
So if you submit your ideas every quarter, I will have the ideas evaluated. And if something has a leg, you will be given time to develop that idea
Yeah.
away from your work. And I said, on top of that, if you happen to file for a patent because it's over there,
Yeah.
you can even make $2,000 extra.
Yeah.
So that is what I would leave them with. And it turned out that the new people coming in were the most prolific in submitting ideas.
Yeah.
And some of the ideas did went live. So if you are in the business of ideas and creativity,
Yeah.
you have to inspire people on day one.
I agree. And I am in the business of
Yeah. I hope
so
I didn't say anything politically incorrect about
no, that was perfectly. That was a an amazing session. So these are all the questions from what I wanted to ask, but then there are certain questions that the audience has also asked. So one question that we have is by Hamad Afridi, and he said, "How can organizations better manage and analyze large volume of data to improve decision making?" So can you share some of your insights on that?
So here's my experience with large organizations. Number one, they are slower than elephants to actually do anything
Yeah.
because the organization has become highly political. They have sat on data. I know of customers for 25 years, and they have formed teams for data science teams
Yeah.
who have presented the insights to the business teams. But the business team is saying that, if we implement these insights, these guys are going to get more people, not us.
Yeah.
So they kill it right away because there's a lot of, this kind of internal friction going on.
Yeah.
So my answer is theoretically, they should be doing it. How many are doing it? I'm not sure. My hope and expectation is this with AI and large language models, they will wake up again because if they use it, what comes out is free
Yeah.
and they can decide to. I'm hoping that thing happens. Um, and unfortunately for Pakistan, it's even worse than this.
Yeah.
And to raise awareness is a challenge. So if anybody is listening from large organization within Pakistan,
Yeah.
if you need help, contact. So
Yeah.
Hamad, I hope this is not the answer probably you're looking for, but that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Acha, so big organizations in one hand, right? But then there's somebody named Hamza Ali who asks that, whenever we're talking about hard problems, we discussed about how to identify hard problems. But when we are talking about developing scalable solutions for startup, what is the path that they should follow in discovering those problems?
Okay. So first, that's a very interesting and provocative question. So thank you for asking. Um, so if you are beginning, I still don't want to call you a startup. You're hunting for a problem. So let's say you found a problem, you have validated, and then you have quickly developed a paper prototype of the user experience. I didn't say code. Paper prototype, you again validate with the same people you interviewed. Once you have uh, closure, then you develop using the agile model, not every feature that is needed.
Yeah.
Ask the customer what is the most critical thing you need.
Yeah.
They will say, well, I told you you need to do 7 things. You say, yes, I know I need to do 7 things, but I'm only human. I have to work in a sequence.
Yeah.
I can't hire a big team. So please tell me one or two of the top problems. When they tell you, that is what you code up and you tie the user experience, go back to them again. And typically there are iterations. And at the end of it, they say, well, perfect, you designed exactly what I was looking for. Then you ask them, who else in your network has a similar problem?
Yeah.
Oh, I know these two things. So can you introduce me to those two companies? Okay. I still haven't asked you to scale it because you're not ready to scale. So a typical number is, let's say 10 customers say, we love it. How much? Make sure your validation is when they give you money,
Yeah.
even 20,000 rupees. Then you know your idea is sticky when you get paid. So once you get this traction, the next thing you do, of course, you work on the other, number 3 and 4, because you can't stop. And then you find another 50 customers, and you do same very controlled engagement. By the time you have scaled up to 300 customers or so, you're ready to go big. It's a small steps, and the reason it's small steps, if it's wrong, you haven't lost much. Now compare this to the classical approach. You found a problem, you coded it up, and you put everything into it, including the kitchen sink and the toilet seat and everything, and you go big. You hire a marketing team, you pay for the ads, and blah 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 blah. And in the first few weeks, you get 10 customers. You say this is even wonderful. Then you put more resources into it, and then you drop into a cat. So I just remembered the name of the third book is Crossing the Chasm.
And that's a wonderful, advice that you have given. Actually, I've been taking notes as you were giving, so that these are all very helpful things that you were saying. The last question that we have from our audience, and it's a fun one. While we have talked about the books that we can, read to start, what are some of the movies that you would like to recommend to people that will get them into that zone of problem identification?
Umar, you shouldn't have asked me this question. This is an unfair question. Um, I watch movies that are not in English and I turn the volume off.
Oh, that's
If it's a
interesting.
good movie, the acting would be successful in telling me the story.
Oh,
So I look for movies that have an unusual ending. Memento is one. Um, I have a list that I can share later on. But again, my uh, kind of non-linear thinking. Um, there is one movie I'm coming to my mind. It's called Rashomon. It's a Japanese movie.
yeah.
It's in black and white, and the director's name is Akira Kurosawa, and all the current movie directors are his disciples. And the story is a murder happens,
Okay.
and there are four witnesses. They've seen it, but each has a different recollection. So the lesson that I drew, there is not one single truth. There
Yes.
are shades of truth. And again, that taught me how to empathize with all the variations. So
Okay, that was an interesting answer that you have given, because I never knew that you could watch a movie without sound and just from the acting. That was interesting. So, Shahid, thank you so much for joining us for this live today. I am sure this is a wonderful session for the audience, because we had a lot more questions. If I were to compare it in terms of percentage, so like I would say 80% more people interacted with this live than our
I can
previous.
take one more question if you're game.
Uh, So we have one from Hamad as well, and that is, as you said, early fresh graduates often struggle to find jobs due to lack of competition in the market nowadays. But what steps can they take after graduation to improve their chances of employment? While you specifically said not to dedicate ourselves to the job, but he's kind of asking that question regarding to increase their employability. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So Hamad, when you graduate in this climate, which is uncertain when it's going to improve, some people are saying maybe end of next year, but it's a very big unknown.
Yeah.
So if you're hoping to get employed, you will be very disappointed. But you also need to develop your skills to demonstrate when the opportunity opens. That's where I'm saying go on Upwork, go on any gig platforms and look for something that you can do and lowball the price. If they're offering, I don't know, I'm just make up a number. If they're offering $50, you say, I will deliver it to you for $30. because if you compete because you don't have a track record, you'll be eliminated right away. So the only competition you have is deliberately you set a low price because you want to do the project, you want to put it on your experience list, you want to put it on LinkedIn, and you want to put it on resume. So this is what I would recommend. Find a way, even if you have to. I know economic times are tough. I've realized, I've been here for 2 weeks. It's expensive. I'm just shocked at this sudden, just for photocopying. I used to pay like
True.
300,000 rupees for, and the guy charged me 8 rupees. And I said, what changed? He said, don't ask me. So in this market, you can offer yourself to a nonprofit, do the work, and deliver the approach that Umar and I have talked about because he's also well versed with it and he practices it. Um, Find a way to build something that solves a problem. I'm sure once you put your mind to it, you use your warm network, you will get something.
That's right.
So,
So
okay,
thank you so much, Shahid. That was a lovely session. Baki, everybody has your LinkedIn because the majority of the audience is from LinkedIn. So if anybody has any questions, they can reach out to you directly.
sure. With,
So
with one qualifier, I love to answer your questions, but ask me a well thought question. Don't send me not well thought of because I will not answer. I just don't have the time. But if you ask me a well framed question, do some thought in. Don't ask me how to become a millionaire because I will have very rude word for you.
yeah,
So happy to answer, but frame your questions. Make me think. I challenge you to make me think.
that's
So
a perfect way to go about it.
yeah.
So thank you so much, Shahid.
Thank you, man.
And I would like to extend my thanks to the audience that have joined us for this entire session. So with that, I will just end the live, and we will see you next week. So thank you so much.